Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for being here. It's with great pleasure that I start this day. It's the first day of our HPCC Summit 2015. As you know, this is the external day. We have a large number of people in this room, about 170 or more people. And we have also a live stream, and I welcome those on the live stream. I will try to make this a nice, fun day. We'll make it a little bit interactive throughout the day. And fortunately, I couldn't get what I wanted for the live stream people. Originally, I asked the AV guys if they could set up some holographic avatars for those in the live stream. But when I asked them, they walked away and did a gesture with the finger, but it wasn't the index finger. So I just waited for a minute, but they didn't come back. So I assume that we don't have that today. So for those on the live stream, I encourage you, and everyone in the room as well, to use social media to provide feedback. So if you have any live feedback, if you have questions, if you want to provide some comments, use social media to connect to us. Since we don't have the live avatars, I want to tell you that David Bayliss invented something called Twitter. What is that? Oh, David didn't invent Twitter. Oh, OK, no, I take it back. David Bayliss did not invent Twitter, but you can still use Twitter with the hashtag HPCC Summit, and that will get those messages to us, and we will be answering and reading some of this live feedback from the audience as well. So again, hello, everyone. Welcome to the room. I hope to have a very exciting day. I personally went through a large number of the presentations. I don't know if I've been in all of them, but I've been in almost every one of those. And I can tell you that they are really, really good. We have stepped up over the last several years in an upward trend on the quality and the content of the presentations. Very good. So without much more preamble, I want to do a little bit of a first vision of HPCC and the open source project. And by now, you probably know this, so I'm not going to reread this statement. But those are the three pillars of our HPCC initiative. It is our company, of course, and this is about the RELX Group and LexisNexis Resolutions. But it's also about the community and the partners. It's building this healthy ecosystem where everyone can benefit from this. Every piece of innovation that goes into HPCC comes back for the benefit of the larger community. And no matter who is contributing, everyone gets the benefits of that. So and this is at the basis of why we decided to go open source with HPCC 5 years ago, and why we continue to put so much energy in this project. Very good. So we have been doing a lot of things. We've been busy over the last year doing a number of enhancements, improvements, innovation, tidbits, and a large number of miscellaneous initiatives. Some of those have to do with the community. For those that haven't been recently to our HPCC Systems website, and how many of you have been to the HPCC Systems website over the last month? Let's say, quite a few. How many of you went there over the last week? How about in the last 3 days? Oh, good. Well, for those that haven't been there in the last 3 days, I introduce you to the new HPCC Systems website. We have redone the portal in a project that took a very long time, and I think we made it a lot more functional. It has now all the content that is usually well needed at the front of the pages. We reduce the need to go back and forth trying to figure out where things are. And of course, we will continue to improve it over the next few months to add additional content and continue to move some of the stuff that we still might have in the old format. But it's a real step up over the previous web portal. That one lasted and did a good job over the last 5 years, but it was time to change it. We also built a number of new training courses and other training materials. And we have people that have been instrumental to this, like Richard Taylor and Bob Foreman, writing and talking to many of these online courses. And this continues to add not just to the depth of the content that we have in the HPCC platform itself, but also content in other areas, in initiatives like KEL and SALT and some of these new meta languages on top of HPCC. And of course, a number of other areas, like integration areas with other systems and more trendier areas as well. We also revamped our documentation. We have written a lot of documentation over the last year. We have changed the format of some of the documentation as we presented. How many of you have been to the Red Book, HPCC Red Book? Raise your hands. Let's see. Okay, quite a few. But many haven't, and that disappoints me greatly. So when you get back tonight or tomorrow, go Google for HPCC Red Book to make it easy for you, and find the resources there. The Red Book is a great resource to know what's new in the new versions, what are maybe the caveats. Some people might say that also it says what the bugs could be, but we don't have bugs in HPCC, so that's not there. But it is a good place to find things that could have changed over the last version, and it will help you go through a transition as well. So Red Book is a very good resource. Go there, use it, contribute back to it. If you have content that you think will fit there, feel free to edit. It's a wiki, and keep adding stuff, or contribute it back in emails. You can send them to Lorraine or other people in the core team, and they will make sure that that finds its way through the wiki. Now, let's just do a little bit of a checkpoint now. Please, how many of you use the 5.0 version of HPCC? Raise your hands. 5.0, there. Okay, quite a few. How about 5.2? How many of you use 5.2? Okay, good. How many of you use 5.4? Still, some. Very good, some. How about 5.6? The guy with the raised hand there, this is not the Hadoop Strata. That's in New York. So if you leave now, I think you can make it in time for Strata, because there is no version 5.6 yet. Okay, good. Anyway, good. So over the last few versions, and this is 5.0, 5.2, and 5.4, there were a number of enhancements in the platform. I just listed a few of these, the ones that I thought, and these are handpicked, really, so the ones that I thought that could be relevant. And some of you might find some of these useful. There were many more, and some even more core than this. But I thought this could be representative of things that we have been doing. Things from performance improvements, and significant performance improvements in many activities, to dynamic ESDL support. Now you can define your contracts with DSP to expose your queries to the front-end interface of Roxy, to additional embedded languages. One of those, I particularly included CQL, which is the Cassandra language, query language. We improved ECL Watch. How many of you have seen the new ECL? How many of you remember the old ECL Watch? Okay, quite a few. How many of you have seen the new ECL Watch? How many believe that the new ECL Watch is an improvement over the old ECL Watch? Guys, we need to go back to the drawing board. Just kidding. Okay, yeah, it is definitely an improvement. ECL Watch is far more functional now. It integrates a number of other components, like monitoring components and capacity planning components, and makes information about the work units a lot more accessible than before. How many of you have used the ZAP functionality to report an issue with your work unit? ZAP? Anyone? Okay, good. Some people have been using ZAP. That's good. Very good. Now, one thing that we have also built over the last year is our visualization framework. And in case you are not familiar with it, I introduce you to the framework, or at least the web page for it in GitHub. How many of you have even seen this? Hands up. If you haven't, please go to GitHub or just Google for HPCC visualization, and get there, take a look. This is a great framework, not just because it integrates nicely with the front-end interface of HPCC, but also because it can even work standalone as a web-based interactive framework for what we call a data bomb model, which essentially allows you to just push data to these widgets and represent that data in a graphical manner. This is very cool. Gordon has been doing a lot of work and a number of other people. So this is a very, very good piece of enhancement of over the platform. Now, we did add also a number of community members. And for those that don't know much how many of these and which ones, I just listed a few of them over this little graph. And you can see that we added universities like Harvard Medical School. We are doing some very interesting research with them, and Jesse will speak about it later today. iCheck is an organization that helps mentor students in Ireland. We have been doing good work with a couple of students in Ireland as well, and some of the folks here, if you are interested in knowing how this initiative worked, you can talk to Gordon and other people involved in this. We are doing work with Imperial College London. We have a 4-year mentorship program for a PhD student to do research and well, collaborative research with them. So that's another good initiative. We also have Right Estate, which I didn't mention before. And one thing that is, I think, quite interesting is that we did our first ever participation in Google Summer of Code. We are open source, so we thought, why not? Google Summer of Code tries to mentor students, and sometimes, most of the time, undergrads, could be even high school students. And we thought that this would be a great option to get more people, first, to know HPCC, potentially to get more people to also provide contributions to HPCC, people that might be able to do this 10-week program and add functionality or fix things or test things. But at the same time, it's a good opportunity to do good and get people interested in computer science and more involved with distributed computing and big data in general. So this was a huge success. I'll give you a little bit of a few numbers in a couple of slides. But other things that we have done, and I didn't want to bring dry charts with numbers and projections and community things, because I thought it was a little bit rough for the early morning, and I apologize for starting so early, by the way. So I just brought a few pictures. We, over the last year, also collected a large number of testimonials. Those are on our portal, so you can see those. Those are videos, and we will be adding more as we go. We did grow significantly across our international footprint as well. As you can see from countries like India and UK and China and others, Germany and other countries. We participated in a number of events, and you can see some of those people that tend to go to many of these events, like Jessica and Bob. So we've been very active in events, and we have still scheduled, I think, probably 15 or 20 events before the end of the year. So you will be seeing us more and more out there. We worked with Kennesaw State University and what used to be Southern SPSU, Southern Polytechnic in Georgia, to sponsor a lab. So there is, if you end up being at some point a student or visiting Kennesaw State University, you can find the HPCC Systems Lab in Kennesaw. How cool is that? That's pretty cool. So, very good, yes. And, by the way, if you go there, you better go there to get your certification on HPCC, which is also available starting this fall. That's, again, Kennesaw State University. So you can visit the lab, but you can also get certified on HPCC, which is also fairly cool. We have a, first time ever, we have now a thriving community in our, on our West Coast side. We have a meetup group on the Silicon Valley that has now over 300 members, and these are active members that go over and over to discuss things around big data and HPCC. And we have a batch program, last but not least, So you will start seeing more and more of these badges around. This is a good way to keep us present without using much footprint in social media. Again, did I tell you that you can use Twitter to tweet live to us and we can answer those tweets? If you are in the live stream and you have no better way to interact because you don't have your holographic avatar, use Twitter and contact us. And of course, we produce a number of papers with people in the community, in the academic and research community. You knew, and you know now, from the last summit that we built all these MOOCs, all these massive open online training courses on HPCC. Well, I think on our last summit, there were 60 people or 70 people taking it. Now we have over 1,000 people that completed their HPCC training courses. We have a number of community members that have secured grants from NSF and DOE, among others, to work on projects around HPCC or HPCC-related things. I mentioned Google Summer of Code, and it would have been success if we got 5, maybe 10 proposals. We got more than 50. Just review. We had only 2 slots because Google allocates the slots initially quite sparsely for new organizations. So you normally get only 1, and maybe if you are very lucky, you get 2 slots. So we got 2 slots, and we had more than 50 people trying to race for these slots. It was a very hard, arduous selection process and pretty hard, and a lot of people have been working on doing that vetting, and eventually we got 2 great people to take these slots and eventually deliver very good work. So that was very good. And last but not least, we have some ongoing joint work with IBM to port HPCC to the Open Power platform. This is the IBM legacy PowerPC platform that eventually became an open compute platform. And we have some great people from IBM that are going to be presenting on this porting effort and where we are at today. So with a little bit of logistics in the last couple minutes for today. Few things that I think are going to make this a lot more fun and a lot more useful for every one of you. First of all, try to go beyond your table. Don't stay static. I don't advocate to walk around while people are talking, though. But in the intervals and when you get out, mingle with other people. Know who the others are. Last night, I tried to get people together from people that I thought had similar affiliations or interests. But do that yourself. Try to figure out who is who, even if you didn't meet that person last night, and try to see if there are common interests. The only way to really grow the community, and the community is every one of us, is to know what the others are and where your interests lie, and potentially find common opportunities for collaboration. So please do so. Go beyond your table. Try to get other people, understand who they are, and know them. Of course, jump in, ask questions. And if you are in the live stream, use Twitter and contact us. And you can use all sorts of social media. You can use Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, and Craigslist. Oh, not Craigslist? Okay, no, don't use Craigslist. You can use all the others, and the others will work fine, yes. I said jump in, ask questions anytime, and speakers will be more than happy, I hope, to address those questions. We will have a number of breaks throughout the day. We will stop the live stream a few times to take those breaks. Please pace yourself, be back in the room. We'll announce how long those breaks are, and we'll try to keep things on time. But if we get over time, we might need to shrink some of those. So be mindful and try to get in the room on time. And I mentioned social media and use the hashtag HPCC Summit to contact us. Now, let's do unfortunately, the budget didn't go too far this time, so we couldn't get a live hypnotist or a magician for this. So let me do a little trick to see if we can at least get something, some of that spirit. So, how many of you have ever programmed in the Clarion language, Clarion programming language? 1, 2, okay, quite a few. So, how many of you program in Clarion and are not from the US, lived outside of the US? Okay, very good. So, how many of you program in Clarion, live outside of the US, and don't work for LexisNexis? Okay, so if you have your hands up now, walk to the stage because you are our next speaker.
Good morning. My name's David Dasher. It's really, really good at Christmas time to have a name like that. I'm the Managing Director of CPL Online. We're an e-learning company based in the UK. What we're going to do for you today is take you through our journey of struggling with SQL to basically flourishing with HPCC systems. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what our company does, give you a little bit of background, and we're going to show you some of the solutions we've put in place. Hopefully you might find interesting, and hopefully we'll have time to answer some questions at the end. I know I'm the MD there, but luckily I'm in a very privileged position where I can spend 40% of my time is actually writing ECL code. And don't tell you, keep it in this room, but that's the absolute favorite part of my job, to keep that between us and YouTube. So a little bit about us first, if I can make this work. There you go. So we're part of a group of companies. So under the CPL training group, we have CPL Online, which is the software company I work for, and then we have CPL Training, which is a traditional face-to-face training company. And it's quite unusual to have a company that can do blended learning, so a mixture of face-to-face and e-learning, because e-learning doesn't solve everything. Sometimes you just need the face-to-face. So that's who we work for. And what we actually do is we're the leading provider of face-to-face and e-learning company for the hospitality sector in the UK. And we're also technologists for the care sector. So we don't sell to the care, but we actually we have partners who write all the content, and we do all the technology back end. We also do a lot of compliance and soft skills and management courses, including health and safety, food safety, and things like that. But I'm not going to touch on that too much. Here's a little look at some of our courses, and you can see we do health and safety, coffee skills, underage sales prevention, lots of skills like that which are need to have for compliance in the UK in order to meet the legal requirements to run a business. So they're just some of the things that we actually do. Now, everything we do is powered by HPCC, and you'll see why shortly. Some of our clients, we're really, really proud of our client list. Coca-Cola, Carlsberg UK, Sky Sports, Heineken, TGI Fridays in the UK, Stonegate, Brains. I put Brains up there because I know you guys have got offices in Cardiff, and they're a nice big brewery in Cardiff. And then some casinos, and then you can see down the bottom we've got our e-learning partner in the care sector, e-learning for you, and then some of the biggest care companies in the UK. We have hundreds and hundreds of clients, some of the biggest names in the UK and indeed the world, if some of those brands, and again, all using via us, all your software. So, that's a quick look at us. That's some of our offices. I'll just point out, 5 years ago, CPL Online started with 2 employees, myself and our lead programmer. And as of this morning, we're about 106 employees within the 5 years. And that's a mixture of programmers, whether they be app or web programmers or engineering, animators, designers, testers, and of course our management and account management teams. We do absolutely everything in-house. So we have our own purpose-built green screens, which is a lot of fun if you ever want to pop to see us. We do some weird and wonderful things on there. And we have our own voice recording booth. So we have voiceover artists and actors come in and record voiceovers to go with all our courses. Now, I'm going to touch, when we're talking about our technology, I'm going to touch on, and you'll see us talking about, I'm going to refer to logins and courses completed a bit later. But just to give you a feel for some of the things, we have one unified platform which actually looks after appraisals, or you guys might call them PDRs. We have design, e-learning, risk management, intranets, websites, apps, big data platform. Everything is powered by HPCC systems. So what I thought I'd do is we put together a little video, just a couple of minutes, just to show you a little example of what we do. So I'm going to play that for you now. And I have to say, we're really, really proud of the fact that they're powered by HPC systems. I think we were one of the first to actually get that, and it's actually on all of our products. So we're thrilled to have that on there. So really briefly, in the beginning, this was our technology. We had 2 load-balanced web servers and a SQL database. So when we started, we thought we'd come up with this great design, and what we'd be doing is, we didn't want to do the normal. On typically learning companies, what you do is you record who's started a course, who's failed, who's passed. We wanted to do a lot more, like all the page timings, if people have answered questions and they change their mind, what did they say, and literally record pretty much every event that goes on in any learning, which is great when you start off and you've got, in the first year, we had 5,000 logins to our system, and roughly 20,000 courses were completed. Everything was going great. Second year, we all of a sudden saw 50,000 logins and 35,000. We were like, well, why is there more logins than actual courses being completed? And the reason for that is clients are using us to do the reporting, the compliance. So when a health visitor turns up at a site and says, prove you've done all your learning, people were going in, downloading reports and showing them. So the next year, we saw some substantial growth, so nearly 1 million logins and just over 160,000 courses. Now, this is the most significant year for innovation for CPL Online, and the reason being is because I went to London to see one of my very best friends, Joe Pritchard, give a talk on big data. Where is he? Hi, bestie. And literally, Joe sold the whole solution to me and basically said, look, this could really, really work for you guys. Go and check it out on YouTube. Check out the site. There's loads of tutorials. So myself and our small engineering team went and had a look, looked at the technology, and within a very little amount of time, we spun up our Thor and our Roxys, and we were starting to move out any SQL calls and actually putting them in and replacing them with a Roxy service. So, which is great, because the next year, we grew again, more and more courses, more and more features being added in, and things started to get even busier. The amount of staff we were adding, the engineering teams, the usage. Then we went really nuts in 2014, and I know this is just a small representation, but over 3 million logins, 750,000 courses completed, so it's a huge amount of usage going on the database. And what we were finding is we couldn't do reporting properly, we couldn't do stats and things, because we were setting up so many new customers and writing to the database all the time that we were constantly fighting a battle with over usage, and we were getting record locks and you name it. And the solution could have been, let's throw more hardware, let's buy more licenses, should we look at Oracle, should we stick with SQL, should we split databases out, and we were constantly rewriting functions. And then this year, and I know they did this a month ago, but those numbers are a bit small now. So we're saying 4.5 million logins, 1 million courses. Actually, that's been really exceeded. So as we continue to grow, and the business has grown 100% year on year, which is phenomenal. So here we go. So just to give you a little indicator of some of the other features we have in messages, we have a little email platform. So you can imagine lots of pubs in the UK, it's all hospitality, so the pub gets an email address, but the staff don't, so it's quite hard for people to communicate. So we built a little email system inside of our learner management portal. And again, there's over 2.5 million messages been sent. We have what's called a bookshelf, which is an online library of videos, PDFs, Excel documents. So the HR team are looking for where do I find a disciplinary checklist? They can search in our bookshelf, get the document, and that can be displayed. And there's over 14 million views on there. We've got over 600,000 users, active users on our system. Something a little bit significant, the top right there, the event hub. Again, I checked that this morning, and it's actually 58 million rows in that in the last 8 months. So we use a technology from Microsoft called Event Hub, which is sort of like an IoT-based system. So we can send all of these events, so mouse in, mouse over, clicks, session starts, you name it, is actually all recorded within the Event Hub. And we don't record that in a database. It actually then gets stored in blob storage, and then we move it straight into HPCC every hour. So again, we do all of our analysis on that. 300,000 logins per month, that's actually over 500,000 now. And then customers can create their own courses, and we've got nearly 200,000 of those going on. So there's a huge amount of usage. There's lots of customers going from management people to site managers to bar staff to nurses, you name it, all using that platform. This is you remember our infrastructure I showed you when we started? Well, this is it now, and please exclude the crude HPCC drawing, but it's good for our clients. It gives them an understanding. What you can see, we use some PaaS services, so we do our API management, so we wrap all the Roxy calls in API management, so we give them subscription keys, so if we do some external access and API release for some clients to have direct access, we can switch them off if we need to. Some streaming analytics with the Event Hub. We also, Visual Studio Online, that does all our source code repository for not just our normal programmers, but all the ECL teams as well. So we all store all our ECL code, functions, whatever it's going to be, all in Visual Studio Online. And then we run some technology for application insights. And very, very quickly, in the production side in the middle, we've got about 8 load-balanced web servers, data storage in SQL with a redundant SQL server, which is up to 5 seconds behind. And all of our blob storage is geo-replicated, typically in the Netherlands, then to Ireland, then to the US. So we've got quite an infrastructure now. And then on the right, we've got our our own HPCC platform, which we use. And that's the equivalent of, say, a 16 machine blade server, 24 cores and 24 gigs of memory. And then we also, and I'll get onto this a bit later, we also have a client setup, a client cluster. So for our external clients, we actually offer a service now where we'll implement HPCC for those as well. So we're really excited about that, but I'll touch on that shortly. So just to give you a little feel for what our system looks like, this is our learner management platform. So effectively here, I'm logged in as a user. I can see all of my courses, how far I am through the course. I can see how many minutes I've taken on a course, how many minutes I've taken on the exam, which we'll come back to again in a minute. When a course is for renewal, so health and safety has to be done sometimes every 12 months, sometimes every 2 years. So our system looks after all of that for you. What's really important, what makes the SQL platform quite difficult for us as well is we have a hierarchical-based system. So every 24 hours, we're importing payroll data from all of our clients, and we have to rebuild their entire organizational structure in this hierarchy. So what typically happens is a regional manager or business development manager can only see himself and below. So the hierarchy has to say, well, who's works for me, who's under me in permissions, and then do all the reporting. So it's limited just for that. So we have lots of people running big management reports, and then you've got individual site managers who just want to look at their own. And in HPCC land, we have a function at the top of every one of our Roxys which works out where you are in the hierarchy, returns all those user IDs, and then joins all the data based on only what you're looking at. I'm sure it's optimized differently in HPCC, but that's the way I can picture it being a mere mortal. But that's really, really important. So statistics and, can I prove my compliance? A lot of these companies are bonus based on the fact that they've completed their compliance. So a new starter comes on board, they have 6 weeks maybe to complete all of their learning, all of their training, and it's got to be proved. And we also have things like career pathways and things like that in there. You can see what I've done here is just like a descendant view. So I'm a manager and I can click a button and it'll give me a nice easy view and show me all the courses I've got. It will show me what I've passed, what percentage I'm through, if I've failed. Also will show me and it show a manager if you're cheating or suspected of cheating, which I'll come on to. And again, all of these are all Roxy feeds. You're looking here at the HTML5 version of the platform. We also have an iOS version, an Android version. Some of our clients are on very old tech, Windows 95, 98, and all these things, so we have a Silverlight version. And again, it's all done through the same comms layer. I just want to talk very, very briefly. This is one of our compliance reports, and I actually wrote this one. And what you typically look at is you need more greens. So some of our clients have got 20,000 employees, all doing 5 courses each, and you've got to be over 95% compliant. So the more reds or the more overdue or non-compliant, that's the worst case. The yellows there would be so somebody is actually in the middle of a course. And then the green there is, yes, you've passed and yes, you are compliant. Something to note there is our clients demand more and more flexibility with the report. So this particular one, they don't want to just see a red box. They want to see, well, when were you meant to do the course? Are you overdue? So in SQL, we would really struggle to do that. But in ECL, we've got, this is the mother of all map statements, my favorite command, by the way, which is literally deciding on what to show. We have a generic function which does this for every client, and we can derive from that and basically say, for this particular care client, we'll actually do something a bit different, and let's do a different map statement for them. So we can be really reactive to what the clients are actually after, and we have a whole team just based on producing client reports because they all want something quite different. Okay, we do a lot of reporting. Okay, so I just want to also, I know Flavio talked about it before, but talking about the visualization framework, we've actually totally engaged in that, and we've with help from Gordon Smith. Oh, there he is. Hey, Gordon. He's given us some real good pointers. We looked on GitHub. We downloaded that. We do all the comms through the to Roxy through that layer, and we're also implementing a lot of the visualizations. And this year we're going to be going through quite a lot more different ones. So clients can run reports basically looking at, are you long-term sick, on maternity pay. I've just realized I'm probably starting to sound like a bit of a stalker, just picking on these guys in the front. While I'm doing that, can I just say a big thank you to Jake Smith, I don't know whether he's here, who saved my bacon on plenty of occasions, and the guys who actually run the forums, who I'm sure get sick of my questions. Bob Foreman, Richard Taylor, thank you very much. Sirs, if you're here. So yeah, they're really, really great. I will stop my stalker behavior now. So we're running reports. We're whether it's percentage compliance, we're doing appraisals and a few bits like that. Course stats. So we're looking here, which courses have been completed. A company summary. So this particular company's done 72,000 courses. They did 290 in the past 24 hours, and you can click on this and go and see all the detail behind it. League tables, site league tables, who's the most accurate site, who's done the most training. So again, these visualizations are a really important part. And here what we've actually got is a quick report looking at course times. And for course times, we don't just say, when did you start the course, when did you finish? We look at every single page. So when did you start that page, when did you finish it? We exclude things like timeouts. And if you've gone off and watched Coronation Street in the middle of doing a course, we exclude all those things. So we get a really, really accurate level of what a course actually should be taking. And that's an important part of the anti-cheating. So when we look at speed, accuracy, we have lots of trick questions in our tests, so we know if you get that right, first time you've taken the exam is half the time as everybody else. We can pretty much, with a few other bits of secret sauce, we can actually tell when somebody's cheating, and they can be investigated. Indeed, one of our clients was their hit rate, and everybody was flagged up as cheating. So when a business manager went to investigate, he actually found a cheat sheet pinned to the wall in the office with every possible answer, and people were just saying, looking it up, and it was literally taking 5 seconds to look, find the answer, and press the button, and it was constant, which was quite fun. And you couldn't really do that with again, we'd really struggle in SQL, but it's an absolute breeze, and we've written a whole engine around that. From putting my MD head back on, from a business point of view, we really estimated when we started building a business that we'd have probably at least 10 SQL programmers, excluding DBAs and engineering. What we've actually turned out, and with the company growing as fast as it has, there's 4 people and a half with me, or 40% of me, who actually are writing SQL, ECL, producing reports, doing stats for clients. So even from a business point of view, if you're thinking about using ECL for all your heavy lifting or anything else, just don't even blink. Just please give it a try, because one, the language itself is absolutely superb. Even I can do it, and we can actually produce far better results and far more innovation. So just touching on what some of the things this has allowed us to do now. So I tell all of our clients, anything heavy lifting, the stats, reporting, queries, counts, you name it, we use our big data platform. We're doing things like scoring and gamification. So now we've actually expanded it to actually allow for how well did you do your course? How well did you do your face-to-face training? If you weren't cheating, how well did you do? And did you get 5 stars for this section, and so on? And all those build up a scoring mechanism. So across the whole portfolio of all your courses, so we can actually say who are the best performing staff. As I said before, we've got apps, all powered by HPCC systems, which is really cool. So I showed Joe the other day. We're more than happy to show you guys outside of here, even with my dodgy 3G connection. We have our visualization layers, again aided by Gordon and his team. Anti-cheating, which is really important. It's not just you've handed out a certificate for health and safety. You want your staff to be trained. So that's enabled us to do that really, really well. A couple of quick things on here. Here's another example. So we've taken here a company with over 3,000 employees, and between them, they do over about 21,000 courses. If you multiply that by a national minimum wage, in the UK anyway, it's about £82,000 worth of cost associated there. Now, what we can do is the people who we've marked as who haven't been suspected of cheating and got more than 90% on that test is about 51%. So if you take all of that and calculate all of the exam time and the course time, it's about £45,000, which is significant in terms of man hours. What will enable them to do then when they come to renew their e-learning is actually say, well, you've done so well, you haven't cheated, we'll allow you just to take the exam because there's been no legislative changes. So in that case, what we're actually doing is we can actually tell the clients beforehand that you will actually save over £40,000 worth of man hours because you don't have to do all that learning again, which is absolutely fantastic. We also have heat maps on our training. So what we can do now, because of the Event Hub data, we can actually display heat maps. So in this particular case, if you look at the top left there, there's maybe some interaction on top of the fridge, which nobody's actually getting to, so maybe it's not really, really clear. We have a telemetry engine. So, and this is, for support, this is fantastic. So what we'll be able to do is actually effectively video play back what a user actually did. So they're saying, yeah, I logged on, I did everything right, and I should have got a perfect score. Well, actually, we can play back and say, no, you went here, you went there, you clicked on this button, you waited there 5 seconds, and then you went here. We know it was 7:30, Coronation Street was on, you stopped and you went and did something else, wherever it's going to be. So that's phenomenal. Just going to show you really quickly a couple of external uses. So this is non-CPL work. So these are some of our external clients. So Orbis, which does people and property protection, they've got 6 different massive databases, hundreds of millions of rows of data. And they came to us and said, look, it's taken 30 seconds to open up a screen, log in, do all these things. And we said, yeah, no problem, we could do that with HPCC. So we gave them a price and went off and did it. But basically they said, well, look, we need some guarantees. We want this returning back within half a second. So they basically had a bet and said, if you can't do it and you can't promise what you're going to deliver, then we want to refund the entire cost of the development. So never want to shy away from a challenge. We accepted, and Roxy's returning in 200 milliseconds for pretty much every single call. So we actually get bonuses as well. So we're really pleased about that. And it's a great system. We do all the sites there. One of our partners, this is really, really interesting. One of our partners, CGA Strategy, we're a software partner with them. They've got 2 products. Excuse me. They've got 2 products. One of them, we're not allowed to see this data, but we did help. They've got their own cluster set up, and we just help with some of the ECL. Now, what these guys do, they do market research throughout the UK. So their system's got about 2 billion transactions for all the major pub groups in the UK. And what they actually do is you can say, I want to look at all the wet spend for all branded food pubs within a 52-week period. And I want to look inside the M25 or the whole of the GB, and basically I want to look at the average weekly take. So what you can actually do there, the system will go away and aggregate all of their data and all of the market and actually say, well, this is where you actually are. Then what we'll actually do is then we can use that again to actually compare it with the client itself. So what we can say is, how are you comparing with the market? Now, what's really interesting about that is you think about expanding that. We add the training data to this maybe, and what we can actually say is, well, okay, this is where you were, how you compare to last year, but we know you've done some upskill training or customer service training, and actually we can see actually a bit more growth in there. We could actually prove the investment of training by looking at the actual ROI on that and using real data. So that's phenomenal. We're really, really pleased to be of help with that. This particular one I've just completed recently. This one we do host on our platform. This is a big survey tool. And what we actually do there is this survey represents the entire UK population, where you can go in and say, I want to look at average age and we can look at supermarket usage for users. You can say, but only where it references these brands. So it's all visualized. Again, this is all done with your visualization framework. And then what we can do is come back and clients can go and say, well, how does the Beefeater compare with the Brewers Fayre, compared to Fair and Square, or all these different brands? So what's the frequency at brand? It's a very clean, crisp. So we've got step bar charts here, which showing which days of the week people go to visit these venues. And this is all interactive. You can choose all your visualizations. So again, you can look at them bar charts. So the visuals have really, really helped. Again, all powered by HPCC. Which we're really proud of, and I wrote all the Roxy layers for this, so it's one of my personal favorites. But these guys, and I know these guys are actually coming to the US. They're launching their business in the US currently. So when they get all their market data and all their survey data, that's going to be absolutely phenomenal. And we just hope we can help out with that. But that's, the CGA, I'm sure you guys will see them and hear of them. Now, thought we'd finish off with a little video. So this is a little gift to Trish and Flavio for letting us come and present. So we asked our 3D animation team to take some of your keywords and some of your product information, and so you can use this at events or wherever it's going to be. But we thought we'd do like a little thank you, and we're really excited about big data, and we thought you might like this, so we'll just play this video.
Big data. Sentiment analysis. Data simulation. Reporting. Statistics. Structured data. Unstructured data. Large graph analysis, data visualization, machine learning, parallel computing. Powered by HPCC systems.
Thank you very much.
Any questions?
I didn't get that.
Are there any questions over there? No questions. Okay, good. Very good.
Okay.
David?
So how do you go with the learning curve for newbies arriving? Thank you. How do you go with the learning curve for newbies arriving in your organization?
Yeah, so what we do in the data engineering team is we've got, we typically hire SQL engineers because it's obviously the easiest thing to advertise for. And more lately, we've actually bringing on apprenticeships straight out of school and college. And we give them an initial background into SQL and our database systems and the structures and everything else. And very quickly, we have our own internal training programs and mentorships where myself and the other senior data engineers will literally work with them on real live client jobs, teach them some of the basics. Some of the reports you've seen, that it's all function based. So whether you're not building them all, or they're not, the junior guys aren't building them all from scratch, but we sort of drip feed the learning into them. And to be fair, they pick it up really, really quickly. There's still, compared to you guys, what you guys do, I'm sure what we do is really, really basic. But for our business and moving that forward, we're learning every day. The guys come up with these really, really cool new features. They're looking at the manuals, they're looking at the reference libraries, they're looking at, I'm one of those real saddos who spends time on the forums and looking in the ECL bit and, ooh, that's a problem I haven't seen before, and going and having a play. So, we encourage them to play, we encourage them to challenge themselves, and if you look at that same piece of code 6 months later and you do it again, you need to go home, because we want all the guys to relook at that and think, yeah, I can do that in 5 lines less, or I can do it in, I've come up with a new function, or I've learned something new about ECL. So we actively encourage that, and just, and the guys just, we give them room to play, and not too much room, because they just tweeted and said they're sitting there watching with popcorn, but get back to work, you lot. So we give them room to, there's a lot of, with the growth of the company, there's so much going on, and it never feels like there's any free time, but as I say, we're trying to bring in these apprenticeship programs where we can't force them into client work, and we let them build up, but that's, we can do better, but we find the transition really, really easy. I mean, writing ECL code is it's just the best thing ever. So, okay. Oh, lady in the back.
Mike, talk for me.
What's your question?
What kind of challenges are you facing today?
What kind of challenges are you facing today?
Was that you or Becky?
That was me.
The challenges today really are, well, it's totally different than we thought it was going to be. A few years ago, our challenges were, can we keep the whole thing running? Can we keep the clients happy? The challenges today are more about innovation. Is we've got all these great ideas about the cheat, and we want to do more predictive analytics, and we want to, I think, combining with other data sets and basically proving that training works by doing the return on investment and things. Nobody really does that, certainly with training. So our challenge really is to prove that model works, to really take that to the mainstream, and really sort of hopefully go into a whole new era with training and big data to really help career pathways, to provide information and actually prove that these things work. Because there's one thing just saying, yes, I've ticked the box, or yes, I've looked at this video or done this course. It's another to say, actually, did that help this person do their job, and is there an actual return on investment for that particular company? So I think they're going to be, it's more of a technical challenge of how we can do that simply, easily and let people understand and see what the results are. I think that's our challenge, but we've almost got a huge sigh of relief that we can, we've taken the pressure off of everything not falling over. Okay? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This was a great presentation. All tons of innovation there. I don't know how many other companies are doing e-learning in a way that David's company is doing it. It's really good. So I have a couple of things. One is for those watching the live video from CPL Online, don't go anywhere. Stay on the live video. Disregard what David said. And definitely we have now a great presentation. Oh, by the way, in the interval, I got a call from Ridley Scott. He wants to license your video, David, for the next Prometheus, he said. I couldn't understand, but I said, yeah, you will get in contact with him. Anyway, we have now a guy of many hats, Anupam Sengupta. Anupam, where are you? There you go. This is also another very interesting use case. Come to stage. He'll explain more why a man of many hats. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm Anupam Sengupta, and I'm part of the GuardHat startup team. We are based out of Detroit. We started this company about 10 months back. And I'm going to talk to you about how we are going to use HPCC in our solution and how we are starting to actually integrate with that. So a quick background about the product, about what GuardHat actually is. So what is GuardHat? As the name probably tells you, it's a hat of some sort. More specifically, it's a smart hard hat that we are building for industrial workers, both in utilities, construction, as well as heavy industries. And what it does is, a good explanation or a good definition is that it is essentially a wearable IoT platform. It has a bunch of sensors on it. It has a lot of compute as well as storage. It processes a lot of data. It is obviously enclosed in an industrial hard hat form factor, so that's where the name comes from. But it doesn't have to be. That's our first avatar. And the main purpose of this device, the application that we are targeting, is industrial safety, industrial worker safety. So just to give you a little bit of context as to why we are using this particular situation or this solution. Some numbers from last year. These are, by the way, OSHA recordables for the US from 2014. Last year alone, in the US, 4,000 lives were lost on the job. That's like 12 deaths a day on the work. In an industrial setting, in a utility setting, someone working on the field, someone working on the roads, that's a number. And it's pretty shocking if you think about it. Given the kind of safety equipment we have, the kind of safety focus and awareness that is there, that number should not be out there. But that's unfortunately the truth. And this has been trending pretty much at the same levels for the last 4 or 5 years. What's even more shocking is this number. There are 3 million plus work-related injuries. And this is not someone falling sick at work or not feeling well. This is actually something happening at work where someone gets injured. It could be as simple as someone's fingers getting nicked or pressed to all the way to someone actually getting crushed. And if you look at the technology trends, everyone knows about the Apple Watch, everyone knows about the wearable revolution that's happening. If you look at the industrial sectors, if you look at heavy industry, whether it's metals and mining, steel, whether it's automotive, I come from Detroit, so I can speak a little bit about that. Most of the innovation, most of the trickle down, so to speak, in the industry has happened on the machine-to-machine aspects. Machines are getting faster. They can speak to each other more efficiently. The processes are getting more efficient, right? But when it comes to actually looking at the last mile connectivity to the worker who is moving the widgets, making the thing work, there's no connectivity there. In fact, you'd be surprised to know that many of these industries don't even allow the workers to carry a cell phone into their workplace for various reasons. I'll not get into that. But that's the kind of environments most of our workers work in. And finally, some of the founders that we formed the company, we actually used to operate the 4th largest steel company in the US till late last year. It was called Severstal, based out of Detroit. We had a few plants in down south as well. We actually had seen these aspects happening in our shop floor on a day-to-day basis. And actually early last year, we were on the lookout for a product where we would have bought such a product, which GuardHat hopefully would be, and we would have deployed that. But unfortunately, from our experience, we could not find a solution which met even 80% of the needs that we had. We found point solutions which did 20% of something or 30% of something or needed a whole lot of integration to make it work. So long story short, last year some of us decided to make this. And this is another view into the innovation aspect of it. So if you look at the hard hat technology in general, the first one, the top obviously is motorcycle helmets, right? The second one is NFL helmets. The last row is industrial helmets. And this depicts innovation as well as progress over the last 70 years. So if you look at 1960s hard hats, bikers' hats, versus what's out there today, the last one is actually a Scully helmet. It's got a full augmented reality. You can actually see what's happening behind you, right? So it's pretty cool. NFL, I guess most of you know that NFL has started deploying helmets which measure concussion on the head. You also have telecom systems. The coach can talk to the quarterback. Hard hats haven't really changed. You can pick up a 1960s hard hat, wear it today, and you will not look out of place. So that's some of the challenges which we wanted to address. So what does GuardHat actually do? I'll get into what it is, but let's talk about what it does. It essentially looks at sensor-based data, detects events in real time. So there's a lot of complex event processing happening there, and takes real-time action. Some examples here, for example, geotagging or geofencing, which in the industry is called lockout violations. So lockout, tagout, that's a particular industry term that you use for geofencing. It looks at fall, it looks at gas-based emissions, it looks at biometric conditions. For example, are you having a heart attack? Is your physiological condition changing with temperature, as an example? That would be heat stress, things like that. So it measures a whole bunch of stuff, and obviously the holy grail is to prevent incidents. So we try to do that as much as possible. In some cases, for example, on the gas side, we can detect gases very, very quickly, as in sub-millisecond level. And we can send out alarms, as well as if there are automated systems to shut that off, we do that as well. So we use ride-on SCADA as well as CAN bus to do that. It provides notifications and also generates EMS interventions if required. So the system can actually call out to emergency services if that's what is required, and would take the necessary action from there. And what's more important and more interesting is, and this is where the analytics side starts to come in, because we are collecting data in real time. And just to give you a sense of the kind of data, we are collecting data from each hat over a bunch of sensors. Each unit has about 10 to 12 sensors. We are collecting data every 300 milliseconds. Just think about a job site which has 100 workers. So that's the kind of volume we are generating, and we are generating 24/7. As many shifts run, we collect that much data. So obviously, we have a whole bunch of data that we have historical analytics capabilities on. So we can also generate a lot of forensic data for post-incident analysis and reporting. And finally, based on the data as well as the analytics, we can predict hotspots. So as you start to build up the corpus of data that the sensors are collecting, over a period of time, you start to see trends, right? So you start to see heat situations developing. You start to see paths of how incidents happen, things like that. Or you can see cause and effect relationships. So we do that. So the way the solution is built up today is it's a three-part solution. There are three aspects to it. The first one is obviously the device, the IoT device. That's a smart hard hat. They talk to each other wirelessly. We actually have an ad hoc mesh network that runs on the hats themselves. So you don't necessarily need Wi-Fi or any other radio technology, but we can obviously use that if that's available. That sends all the data, collects the data, and sends it to the platform, which is our GuardHat software platform, which is a combination of a complex event processing engine. So it churns all the data, processes the events, generates the notifications. And it's also a geospatial geographic visualization engine. So you actually can see who's moving around on a real-life map in high accuracy, both indoors and outdoors. So the device actually has indoor positioning as well as outdoor positioning. Resolution is about 40 centimeters, so it's about slightly less than a feet. So you can actually visualize how people are doing. It generates the data. If someone's sensors are detecting an event, it obviously highlights that. Then you take action on it, or the system takes action if it knows what needs to be done. And based on all the data that exists, we are building safety, of course, as the first application. But I'm sure you'll realize this becomes a blue sky application, right? We have already started looking at aspects of doing time and motion studies, because that's very easy to do right now. I know the location of all the workers. I know how they're performing. We can do on-the-job training, not to the extent of what David had, but at least enable some of those things. We can look at asset management, warehousing. The possibilities are endless. In fact, I know we have some friends from IBM in the room. We are actually partnering with IBM's HIFA lab to do a heat stress study for one of the Ohio-based steel plants. I'll not name what it is, but that's something that's coming up. So that's one of the applications that we are looking at. So the possibilities are endless. So this is what GuardHat really is. This was just an introduction into what the product is all about. Now let's talk about why HPCC. So a little bit of background, actually. We started this company in October of last year, so we are getting pretty close to our 1-year anniversary. And obviously, it's a hardware-software combination. So we had to develop the hardware, we had to develop the hat, there's custom molding. Hardware, by the way, if you want to do a startup, think 10 times before you do that. That's my experience. But anyway, we are down that road. So the first half of this year or so, we spent in developing the hardware, getting it stable, the prototypes, things like that. So as we started looking at software, some of the pieces were easy. They were middleware solutions for IoT, collecting data, the whole telemetry aspect of it. But as we started getting close to the data and we started getting the actual data itself, we were actually in a little bit of a quandary, because we looked at the usual suspects, and I'm jumping myself, so I'll skip over the slides a little later. We looked at the usual suspects in terms of Apache Hadoop, Edgebase. We looked at SNES on Amazon. Looked at a few commercial products also, which claim to do visualization as well as process the whole thing. But what we realized is that, number one, we were spending too much time building the frameworks as well as doing the integration of the product rather than developing our own solution. And trust me, in a startup, time is money. Time is money anywhere, but in a startup, agility is really the most critical factor, right? We need to get to the market as soon as possible. So luckily for us, one of my good friends who is a big user of HPCC, I believe he was here last year, one of the presenters, Tony Cheng, he pointed us to HPCC. And we got connected to Flavio, Arjuna, Dan came in later. So long story short, looking at HPCC, we realized this is really the aha moment. Initially, we were a little skeptical. We were skeptical because, I mean, your website looks great, Flavio, even better, but even 3 months back, it wasn't too bad, right? So we looked at HPCC initially and said, okay, this looks commercial, probably what's the bill, what's the invoice coming, things like that. And more importantly, the learning curve. But we were pleasantly surprised. The reason being, and I'll get into the specifics now. So there's a very high-level architecture of how GuardHat works. The same 3-part architecture. We generate a lot of data, as you can imagine, right? So this is just indicative of one of the pilot sites that we are actually going to deploy this in December. So which has about 400 workers working per shift, right? So we have media data as well as sensor data, so that's why the number adds up pretty quickly. So we are generating close to 200 gigabytes of data in a 8-hour shift, which is crazy, which is really crazy. Even if you take out the media part of it, which is audiovisual media, the device can actually has a camera, so you can capture images and video and things like that. But still, this is really crazy. And even more important is that because it's a safety application, so we have to react very fast. I can't wait 10 hours and then react to a safety event, right? I have to react as and when it happens. So you have a SLA of about less than 2 seconds for most of the events. In some cases, even lesser than that, but that's an average. So looking at this, what we realized is, if you break it down, we are trying to do real-time complex event processing on streaming data. That's the core of the system, right? The data is coming in, we are processing it, we are correlating with other data, and trying to detect specific situations. The CEP requires data aggregation as well as historical trends. For example, if you detect gas emissions, you don't depend on a single data point. You cannot, because most of these sensors are too sensitive or do not have enough calibration to have accuracy on a single data point. You have to aggregate over a period of time. Another classic example would be if you're measuring heart rate. I don't know if anyone has the Apple Watch or something like that. If you would notice, it requires a certain stabilization period before it can start accurately detecting data, because there's a hysteresis that's involved on the electrical side. So essentially, you need to look at not just one data point, you have to look at the history of it. Another interesting example is if you look at particulate emissions. This is something which EPA is very worried about, right? So particulates in the air. You obviously have to depend on multiple sensors gathering the data and correlating them both in time as well as in space to detect whether you actually have an emission condition. So, and various other such scenarios exist. So essentially, our event detection becomes dependent not just on a given data point, but also historical data that the system captures. So that becomes actually pretty complex when you start looking at it. The other thing is, data, in our case, the temporal sequence, the time sequence is not guaranteed. The reason for this is we are depending on radio technology to send the data over to the backend, right? While we have made many, many changes on how we are using the mesh, how we are using Wi-Fi, we even have a LTE version. The short answer is data transmission is not guaranteed. Telemetry for us is not guaranteed 100% all the time. So it's quite possible that some of the devices may be offline for a period of time and then push out data whenever it reconnects, essentially in a store and forward architecture. What this means is, though, data can come out of sequence. So in time, it may look linear, but it's actually not linear. So you have to resequence things. The other thing is we are actually designing for a modular hat. So the sensor configurations can vary. Not everyone needs the same set of sensors or same set of configuration. So the data schema or the sensor schema for what is being sent can vary from model to model. So we have to adjust for that also. And finally, geospatial pivot on the data is one big aspect of how we actually process the data, because location is a big part of this entire solution. We need to know where you are, and we need to know where the event is actually happening to action that. And finally, there are a lot of ad hoc as well as pre-configured queries that need to run simultaneously. So these were some of the challenges that come from the previous slide, as well as the volume of data. And finally, we are actually also connecting with existing enterprise applications, primarily to get HR information, some of the organizational hierarchies, things like that. So that integration also comes in. The other aspect which made our data processing a little complex is that we do have significant multi-site requirements. most of the organizations we are working with who are going to do pilots and hopefully will be our end customers do have multiple sites where this system will be deployed. So the system needs to both operate locally at a given site, as well as allow us to roll up data at appropriate organizational levels, at a regional level, at a corporate level, things like that. The solution also needs to be flexible because some aspects of the solution will obviously be local. It has to be local because we need local processing. But most of the analytics needs to be available across the organization, at least in terms of data access. While the capability may be different, the data has to be there. So these are some of the other aspects that come into picture from this particular deployment issue. One is heterogeneous deployment. We need to have on-site or on-premise deployment, plus we need to support a cloud-like deployment, whether it be private or public. We need to have very customer-specific analytics deployed over the data that we capture. Most of these sites will not allow us to have something like a Cisco UCS where we can just bring in big boxes and start lining them up. We need to horizontally scale this solution. And finally, deployment needs to be very, very quick. These are hats, end of the day. If you think about how people use hats today, don't think twice, right? It's a hat. It's a piece of plastic. You just wear it, you throw it. That's how. So deployment needs to be very close to that kind of a model. So both on the software as well as hardware side, this needs to be a configuration over a coding model. As I said before, we did look at some other solutions. We looked at Amazon actually pretty closely. And unfortunately, our issue was that while they do claim to achieve what we need, and they probably will, it simply requires too much time that we cannot afford as a startup. And more importantly, most of the effort was going towards integrating different technologies. So one of the good things about HPCC that we found is that it is really a single solution, and I call it batteries included. I mean, there is a learning curve, of course, around this, but once you get it, you get it. Everything that you need is right out there, right? So that was one of the things why we actually went with HPCC. The other aspect, obviously, is that everything happens in the data domain. So rather than us worrying about the framework aspect of things, trying to connect stuff, trying to set up a server, looking at the integration aspects of how we use the product, we just can get into coding and getting into our solution right away, which was a big plus for us. I'll actually take a moment here and go back to the previous point, because someone asked me this question yesterday. We haven't used ECL before. I mean, that's probably true for anyone who comes into HPC the first time. It's not exactly your Java or C, right? So someone asked us the question as to, what was the learning curve, and more importantly, how did you find ECL? Obviously, it's a new language, and I know a lot of people will get probably a little angry when I say this, but if you have had COBOL experience, or if you have done enterprise COBOL, which is really data-centric, and I'm not talking, Hello World kind of stuff, but if it's like writing to IMS and DB2 and things like that, that actually ports a lot. And thankfully, some of us actually had worked in that environment in the past. The other thing about ECL is once you get your mind around the fact that it is really about the data and not about the syntax, right? The semantics, not the syntax. It's actually a pretty cool language to pick up and at least get familiar with it pretty quickly. The first data feed that we set up on HPCC was literally done over a weekend. I mean, we did the 6 degrees of bacon example and a few other online stuff. And over the weekend, we got our data into the system. Of course, we still had to write up the analytics around it, but that was that easy for us to achieve. The other thing is, the good thing about ECL also is that it allows us very flexible models, and this is really true about HPCC, not ECL. We started with your usual, 2x2 node sample that comes with it. Quickly scaled it to a 4x4 cluster, 4 on the Thor side, 4 on the Roxy side. And we have been playing with various combinations. We're actually, by the way, not using Amazon anymore. We're using IBM's software product, and there's a reason for it, because our middleware is also from IBM. But deployment was actually not too difficult, even on that platform, which technically, we probably were the first ones to actually do that. So that was another good thing that we had. And finally, obviously, we are looking at a long-term viability. Any product we choose today, we have to live with it at least for the next 4 or 5 years, assuming the company exists for 4 or 5 years, which, fingers crossed, we will. So long-term viability is obviously important. And the last one is, I actually rephrase this. What I call this is, what you don't know won't kill you. I think that's true to a large degree with HPCC, in the sense that you obviously need to build up your capabilities. So by no means, you can live with your Kevin Bacon example and expect it to perform. But you can incrementally build your solution over a period of time. So that is very, very important, because what we are developing has a lot of moving pieces. It's not just analytics. There's hardware, there's software, there's infrastructure, and everything is in a state of flux. So things have to evolve with each other as well as in response to one another. And HPCC lets us do that. And of course, this was fantastic. I mean, your documentation, even 3 months back, Flavio, was great that we could actually get ourselves started pretty quickly, very quickly. And it's obviously gotten better. I have seen the video courses. We have started using some of those. And Bob Foreman, right? I've heard your voice probably over a couple of days, so I think I know you. But really great stuff. Thank you. So that actually is important, because as an example, we were struggling with how to feed data into, if you ask about the friction points, the biggest friction we had initially was, how do we shoehorn a streaming data stream into a data set-oriented system, right? HPCC talks about data sets. It looks at fixed files, logical files, whatever it may be. But lurking in your community, and especially 5.2 was great because you had the embedded feature, and we do use Python to a great degree. We actually built up a duct-taped solution. We have to fix it. But the community helped us actually get to a solution very, very quickly, where we actually have embedded code now, which generates a virtual data set, reads from the message queues, and creates the data and feeds it into HPCC. And obviously, we consume from there. So that was possible only because of the community. So we do have IDs. We haven't posted that much, but trust us, we lurk a lot. So it's like, hey, do this query, and let's see what's out there. So that's probably the most other biggest thing that we are actually using for the solution. I'll not spend too much time on this. I mean, this is pretty static and pretty comprehensible. This is our high-level event-based architecture on the software side for our solution. It's mostly asynchronous. It is pipeline-based, so events move from stage to stage and get processed wherever they have to. This is how we started with. There's a dual database that we had from the beginning. One was a nearline database to allow our event processing engine to pick up data very quickly, and we had a long-term storage. I don't know if it's visible. Yes, it is. Whatever you see in green that's outlined there is getting replaced with HPCC right now. So almost 50% of our solution, I think we can simplify by using what you already have and not having to rediscover or redevelop the solution again. We have also started looking at your visualization solution. In fact, we worked with Arjuna and his team to build up a heat map. I don't have the video today, but it's actually pretty cool. So it shows you on a map how carbon monoxide emissions are starting to happen over a period of time. And it's actually a playback, so you can play it back and see how it's developing. So we're starting to use that, but right now we are focusing on the backend side. We are focusing on the data aspects of things, as well as the analytics. Another thing which we are starting to work with your team again is sort of an inverted architecture when it comes to streaming data. This is where we actually want to be. Right now, the embedded Python part, that's not sustainable. It's good for proving the concept, but we want to get to this, where we are exploring models where we will actually use Roxy queries as an intermediate staging. So it's almost inverting how we feed the data. Instead of pushing it to Thor, we'll push it to Roxy, which will use a Cassandra-based database as a staging area, push it into Thor, and once it's complete, the session is complete, it actually clears it out. We just started talking about it. It's not quite there yet, but I think this is how our feature looks like. So Roxy for us actually is going to entirely invert the equation. And of course, the standard stuff, ETL, everything else rides on both. The other thing which we are also starting to do is, I talked about the geomap dashboards with the carbon monoxide example. We are also going to use Roxy more and more for our event detection itself. So right now we have a two-stage database. We have a operational database which is used by CP, and we use Roxy and Thor for analytics. We are trying to see if we can completely eliminate our operational transactional database and use Roxy itself for our CP as well. We have had some success. We are going to build our additional events on that. Main reason for doing that is fast queries, as well as looking at a vastly more span of data than is possible from our solution today. And finally, data integration. We are, for example, trying to get data feeds from EPA on environmental conditions, which is required for some events. We are looking at OSHA incident recordables to look at trends vis-a-vis a site's performance to its geography, things like that, and a few other stuff. And this is another thing which we are also planning to do. Finally, multi-format data delivery in terms of notifications, alerts, reports. OSHA mandates a lot of standardized reports that we are also going to generate out of that. We believe the solution actually meets our needs also because these are the ultimate goals that we are trying to achieve. These are the three major stakeholders in our product as we believe it. Workers, obviously, the end users, their safety is paramount, and that's what we're trying to achieve. Enterprises, in terms of cost savings, lesser incidents mean lesser cost, and of course, insurance providers. I don't know if you know this, workers' claim insurance is the 4th largest insurance category in the US. It's one of the biggest industries. They are also pretty interested in getting some aggregate data analytics, which will help them model their products better for these industries. Today, if you think about how a company like ACE or a company like Liberty Mutual does a insurance for, let's say, I'll just make this up, a large steel plant. They use data from 1960s and 1970s to do product modeling. And then obviously compliance becomes difficult because the only way you can do compliance today is you do a site audit. So someone actually goes with a clipboard, and obviously the moment you see the person with the clipboard, behaviors change. Right? So there's a whole disparity between how modeling as well as enforcement happens. We're trying to change that. And we have had pretty good conversations with some of the majors here. And finally, beyond safety, we have a lot more applications coming. I already talked about the heat stress study. We are also looking at time and attendance. We are looking at asset management. And it's essentially a blue sky approach from there. So where are we right now? Our prototype is ready. As I said, we are replacing our operational database with HPCC. We are trying to make Roxy the telemetry sync, the architecture that I showed you earlier. Once we do that, Roxy will actually source the CP data itself. It's disintermediated, but we are going to do that. Reporting and analytics, we have already started using it. Visualization, we are starting to look at live dashboards, similar to the example I told you about. And later this year and into first quarter next year, we have 3 major pilots which will be done on-site with our product as well as HPCC deployments in US as well as Europe. So that's actually one of the sites has those 400 workers that I spoke about. What's next? A lot of enhancements. ML integration is something which we are very curious about. Very, very curious about. We don't have the times or the cycles for it to do it right now, but that's certainly something in our calendar and roadmap. The reason is, based on the data that we have, there are a lot of inferences that can be made, which we can only do once we have sufficient threshold of data. But once we do that, correlating parameters, correlating events, we would like to use machine learning as much as possible, because most of these sites, these are not banks, right? So they don't have in-house on-premise data analysts or data scientists. The system has to actually automate things as much as possible. So we're trying to see if we can do that. Hybrid deployment, as well as a cloud deployment, that's going to also happen. That's actually going to happen later this year. And finally, the sky's the limit. I mean, it's just the beginning. So there you have it. GuardHat, that's how the hat actually looks like. And powered by HPCC systems. You have the badge. Thank you. So I actually have a small video if you have the time. It takes about 3 minutes. It would give you a sense of what the product is about. I talked a lot about the technology aspects of it and HPCC, but this probably shows you a little bit about the product itself. So Jeff, if you don't mind.
No excuses. Know what that means? Wake up at the crack of dawn. Ignore your aching muscles and drown out the voices inside your head yelling at you to hit the snooze button because it's too cold, it's too dark, it's Sunday, or your son's birthday. It doesn't matter. There's work to be done. Steel to be made, coal to be mined, lumber to be shipped. We keep the world moving. Come what may. I mean that. Nothing gets in our way. 3,700-degree furnaces, 50 below and gusty. Heck, 60-ton machines that can chew us up, and tunnels so dark you can't see your hand in front of your face. But we're taken care of. Right, boss? So how come our safety equipment hasn't changed in 60 years? Comforting to know when we're up alone on a 300-foot tower battling gale force winds, or facing a blast furnace so hot it melts steel. I know what you're thinking. If there's better safety gear out there, you wouldn't hesitate 1 second. Turns out, there is. It's called GuardHat, and it's much more than a hard hat. I get hurt, it tells you why and where to find me. I get too close to a lockout area, it warns me. It keeps me informed, keeps you informed, so you can make things even safer. That's right, even safer. Truth is, the perils of our workplace are like battle-ready warriors, always searching for that one small chink in our armor. One mistake and game over. So it's up to you to make sure you arm us with the best out there. Not that there was ever any excuse not to. It's just that there are zero excuses now.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions?
It's not, I guess it's a bit of a question. Have you ever considered looking at the fire protection industry?
Yes. Short answer is yes. Long answer is that fire protection industry actually has, or EMS in general, not just fire protection. And if you can also extend it to security services and police work. They have additional requirements in terms of how these products need to look like. So first of all, it would not be a hat. It would be a mask, face mask of some sort. And the other thing is the visual aspect, the way you have the goggles on the mask, they need to be designed in a slightly different way. So we do have it in our roadmap to look at it, but right now we are focusing more on the industrial side of things. But yes, definitely we have thought about it. Thank you, Flavio.
Thank you very much. This is a great presentation. Thank you. What can I say? I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. This is a great presentation. It has a number of interesting aspects to it beyond the specifics of the particular domain area, in this case safety. It has also functionality that we've been developing over HPCC in the last year and a half, on streaming capabilities and complex event processing. So, and these capabilities are capabilities that are also leveraged in other places, and telematics, for example. So this is a great showcase for a lot of this hard work that went into the platform over the, again, last year or so. Now, to our live stream people, we are going to take a break now. We'll be back in 15 minutes. I'll just remind you that you can use Twitter to send us questions and suggestions and any other information to communicate with us. If you have any criticisms, you can write them down on the back of a $20 bill and send them to my home address, and I'll read them before I spend the money. Thank you very much. I'll see you in 15 minutes.